Hello folks, I'm Dan, the editor of Wargames Illustrated magazine, and I'd like to take you on a tour of the latest issue, which is the October issue WI 394, which also comes with a free plastic frame of figures, courtesy of Warlord Games. This is one of the three you could possibly get. This is the Samurai. There's also Ashigaru missile troops available and Ashigaru spearmen. So that aside, let's take a look inside the magazine. Okay, so let's get into it. We've got a lovely piece of artwork by a regular artist, Neil Roberts. That's a bit of the action at Corunna there on the cover. We're also told that the theme for this month is Last Battles, Wargaming to the Bitter End. Turning inside, editorial will tell us a bit more about the theme. Then we're into Quick Fire, our new-ish first section of the magazine, in which we accept contributions from our readers. And they tell us about what projects they're working on or anything that comes into their head regarding Wargames Illustrated or Wargaming. Chris Breeze has got a bit of a battle report there about his first game of Billhooks. David Bickley tells us a bit about his project to build Punic Walls. We've got a letter over here, an actual letter. We do accept those, obviously, very grateful. He's talking about some articles that were in last month's magazine. Then we're into Observation Post. Observation Post is new and forthcoming Wargames stuff. So we're looking at new figures by Artisan, Crusader Miniatures, a new painting book from Pen and Sword, a flip through of the Battle Sworn new supplement for Oathmark. When we say flip through, what we actually do is we do a flip through video online, and this is a transcript of that video. Then we've got Empress Miniatures Ford Mott, Gripping Beast figures, new Pacific War supplement for Bolt Action, Frostgrave Knight figures. Then into Full Paper Jacket, book previews for the busy Wargamer, in which Neil Smith looks at some books that he knows that you will be interested in as Wargamers. Right, then into the first article, the first theme article of the magazine, Salacia 222 BC, one of our last battle theme articles, and this is the Spartans against the Macedonians, the last throw of the dice for Sparta. This article has been written by Martin Gibbons. Martin Gibbons is the author of Sword Point 2, so he's done this as a scenario for Sword Point 2, or for Sword Point 1, I'm sure it works for as well. So that's the first of our last battles. Then we're into a non-theme article here, some hobby talk from John Lambshead, Hail Caesar versus Mortem et Gloriam. What he's actually doing here is talking about two rule sets he really likes and the pros and cons of those rule sets. We've also got comments here from the author of Meg, or Mortem et Gloriam, Simon Hall, and some comments from Rick Priestley, the author of Hail Caesar. Into another Last Battles article here, Castilion, which was July 1453, the last battle of the 100 Years' War, in which artillery played a major part. Got some lovely photos here of Simon Chick's very nice 100 Years' War collection. Next up, Frostgrave, a player's first thoughts. Dave King, who's a fanboy of Frostgrave first edition, tried out the second edition for the first time and told us what he thought of it, including some of the subtle changes that are in the rules, highlighting some of those. Back into Last Battles again, Stoke Field 1487. This was the last battle of the Wars of the Roses, and I persuaded Andy Callan, the author of Nevermind the Billhooks, which is this rule set here that we gave away with the last issue of the magazine. Still available if you want to get your hands on a copy in PDF or in printed form. I persuaded him to write an article about the Battle of Stoke Field, even though he did say Stoke Field's too big for Billhooks. What he does is he focuses in one part of the battle, so it works very well for Billhooks actually in the end. So yeah, some lovely photos there of Billhooks units as well in action. Then we've got our first modelling article this issue. We're trying to keep quite modelling heavy at the minute. We know that a lot of Wargames clubs are not open, a lot of people are not meeting up to game, so we want to keep a lot of focus on the modelling side of it, which is something that you can do on your own, of course. Paul Davies looks at how to make a medieval carriage in 12 or 10 mil, but actually you can upscale it to 28 mil as well, so a very nice looking carriage there, and how to go about making it. Another one of our Last Battles articles, Corunna, which was featured on the cover. Jim Graham looks at the Battle of Corunna, so this is the British retreating from the peninsula in 1809. An interesting sidebar there about the look of the figures as well, what your figures should look like, i.e. very rough by this stage when the British had retreated across Portugal to get out of the peninsula. And some very nice photos there of a lovely Corunna game that we photographed a few years ago actually. Here we've got converted armies. Bob Amy talks about the armies that in the last issue of the magazine we focused on how he converted some of the figures, and now we're doing a few pages showcasing some of the armies in all their splendour. So lovely painted figures. If you're a Prime member you'll also be able to see these online and spin them around as well. Lots more photos online for Prime people. So we've got Macedonians, we've got Sassanid Persians, we've got all sorts of things here, Thracians as well, some lovely looking 15mm ancient figures. Another Last Battles article here. This is the end of the Hungarian Revolution, surprised to us by Bill Gray, or at least it was a turning point right at the end of the war anyway, so something a bit different in Central Europe, big battles in Central Europe. Bill's played that game out a few times and he talks about how it went and how you could potentially do it yourself. Model making article here. We've got how to make Bill Hook's movement trays. So this is our in-house modeler James, and here's the trays in question. He's showing us how to make them from a sort of very basic setup here right at the beginning through to something a little bit more complicated with tufts on, something that's got a little spot there for your dice, your arrow dice that you can fit in there. And then onto this quite complicated one at the end here, which has actually got an arrow tracker on it. You've got space there for your tokens as well, and also an arrow tracker, so you can say you've got you've got 6 shots left, or you've got 5 shots left, or whatever. You move that arrow down the track so you can track it. And anyway, James in this article here tells you how you can copy what he did and create these very bases here. Very nice model making article, that one. Then the last of the Last Battles, we move over to World War II and the Battle of Texel, or the uprising at Texel anyway, which is it looks like it's Texel, but apparently it's pronounced Texel. It's an island off the coast of Holland in which the Croatians rose up against the Germans, who they were supposed to be fighting for at that point of the war. But this is very late in 1945, or at least very late in the war in 1945. And we've got some bolt action stats there provided for us by the guys from Warlord, and some nice looking photos of the Warlord figures as well, bolt action figures. Sidebar there about the Georgian Legion and how they were involved in the Second World War. Then we're into an article which is effectively an interview with Michael Perry, Perry Miniatures' new Afghan tribesmen, which are these fellows here. We've got some painted examples in the magazine, and we've got the actual painted figures here. So these have been painted by Alan actually, but they were originally designed by Michael Perry, and Michael talks us through the design process behind these Afghan tribesmen. James questions him, throws some questions at him. We look in detail at the frame. Michael talks about how you should be setting your figures up. So there's Michael smiling because we've got that figure looking down the barrel of his musket, whereas that one isn't. So Michael's sad. So quite a light-hearted interview, that one, but all about the new Perry plastics. Then we've got, I think, the third in our series of articles about the Crusader States by Dr. Steve Tibble. In this one, the Crusaders leave the Latin kingdoms and move across to Egypt. So it's an invasion by the Crusaders into Egypt. Very colourful, allowing you to get a lot of different forces on the tabletop. The last article, I think it's the last article in the magazine, is a cover mount focus on the Japanese house warriors. So, a reminder that with this magazine you get one of 3 potential frames, either samurai or Ashigaru spearmen, Ashigaru missile troops. And in this article we look at what can be done with the frame, what's the makeup of the frame, and also what are the samurai about, what are the Ashigaru about, and an intro guide to those and to using your frame. There you are. That's it. That's the October 2020 issue of Wargames Illustrated magazine, WI 394. I hope you enjoy it. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.